I think for most of us, there's a very specific number that comes to mind when we think about the Bible.
Mm.
It's almost this subconscious boundary.
Hmm.
If you grew up Protestant, that number is 66. If you're Catholic, it's 73. And that feels definitive.
Hmm.
Like the book is closed, the ink's dry. This is it. This is the complete library.
Exactly. We tend to see the canon, the official list of scripture, as this binary switch. A book is either in, it's the divine word, or it's out.
Right. It's just literature. Or worse.
Or worse, heresy. There's really no room for a gray area in that view.
But today, we're going to completely dismantle that binary because we've got a stack of sources here that point to a living tradition where the Bible isn't 66 books, it's not 73.
It's 81.
It's 81.
Mm-hmm.
And inside those extra pages, the world looks drastically different.
Yeah.
We were talking about angels teaching humanity how to make swords and cosmetics.
The origin story of demons is the ghosts of dead giants.
And a solar calendar that supposedly dictates the rhythm of the heavens. It's wild.
We are, of course, talking about the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church. And I think the mission for this deep dive is really specific. We're not just looking at extra books like they're, bonus features on a DVD.
Right.
We're looking at a time capsule. This tradition preserved a form of faith, what people often call Enochic Judaism, that it basically disappeared from the rest of the world.
And it's not just texts. We have sources from the Smithsonian and others that point to something physical. This tradition claims to possess the ultimate artifact, the actual literal Ark of the Covenant.
It is a massive claim. Maybe the biggest claim in Christendom. But when you look at how consistent their tradition has been for 2,000 years, and you see how it's integrated into their daily worship, you have to treat it with a different kind of seriousness. It's not some internet conspiracy theory.
Okay, so let's start with the library, the books. We've got this study here on the Ethiopian canon. And my first question is it's basic math. Why is their Bible so much bigger? Did they just keep adding stuff?
It's funny you say that because it's actually the opposite. It's not that they kept adding, it's that they never subtracted.
Ah.
To get this, you have to look at how the Western Bible was formed. You had these church councils in the 4th, 5th centuries, men sitting around tables, debating, voting, creating these really rigid definitions of canonical versus apocryphal.
The in and out lists.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But Ethiopia, it was geographically and culturally isolated. They were high up in the mountains, surrounded by the rise of Islam.
So they just missed the meetings, basically.
They missed the meetings. They weren't at the Council of Trent. They weren't part of the Reformation. Their guiding principle wasn't exclusion. It was instruction. If a book was ancient, if it was holy, and if it was helpful for the people, they kept it. They rely on a document called the Fataha Negest for this list.
And looking at the notes here, even that list of 81 is a little tricky. It says there's a broader canon and a narrower canon. What's that about?
It is complex. The number 81 is the sacred number. They're committed to that count. But how they get there can vary. So in the broader canon, they might list certain books as separate entries. In the narrower, they might group those same books together, but then split others apart just to keep the total at 81.
So the number itself is the key.
A number is key. But the big takeaway for us isn't the math. It's the inclusion of books that the West labeled pseudepigrapha, basically, falsely attributed writings. And the big ones are 1 Enoch, Jubilees, and the books of Maccabean.
I want to clarify something there because I saw Maccabean and I just assumed that's Maccabees, which is in the Catholic Bible.
That's a very common assumption, but no. The Ethiopian Maccabean books are completely different texts.
Really?
Yeah. They cover a similar time period, Jewish resistance, but the characters, the events, totally different from the Maccabees you find in the Catholic tradition. It just shows how independent their textual stream really is.
Okay, so let's unpack the big one. 1 Enoch. This book is the heavyweight champion of lost books. Reading the summary, it feels like it reframes the entire early history of the Bible. It reads like sci-fi.
It really does. And for centuries, Western scholars thought it was gone forever. They saw the early church fathers quoting it, so they knew it existed, but the text was lost.
A total mystery.
Total mystery. Then, in the 18th century, an explorer, James Bruce, goes to Ethiopia and brings a copy back. And then much later, in the 1940s, we find Aramaic fragments of it in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Which was a massive deal, right? Because it proved the Ethiopian version wasn't some medieval fan fiction.
Exactly. It proved that what the Ethiopians were reading in their churches was the same text that Jewish scribes were reading before Jesus was even born.
So why did it get pushed out of the Western Bible? Was it just too weird?
It was likely to. supernatural for the theology that was developing, especially around the origin of evil. I mean, think about the standard Western narrative. Why is there evil in the world?
Adam and Eve, the fruit, the snake, human choice.
Right. It's a story about human failure.
Mhm.
But 1 Enoch gives a completely different cause. It shifts the blame to the Watchers. These are angels who descend Mount Hermon. And they don't just observe humanity. They defect. They lust after human women.
And this is where we get a Nephilim, the giants.
Yes. In Genesis 6, the Nephilim get, a few very confusing verses. It says, the sons of God saw the daughters of men. And then suddenly, giants. It's so vague.
It's a throwaway line, almost.
Almost, but 1 Enoch blows this up into a full narrative. It names names. The leader is Semjaza. But there's this other figure, Azazel, who is, he's arguably even more destructive.
This is the part that just floored me. Because Azazel doesn't just corrupt our biology by creating giants, he corrupts our culture. He brings technology.
It's a profound critique of civilization. Azazel teaches men how to make swords, shields, breastplates. He introduces organized warfare. But he also teaches women the beautifying of the eyelids, cosmetics.
That is such a wild combination. It connects war and seduction as two sides of the same corrupted coin. It's like, here's how you kill, and here's how you deceive.
That's a great way to put it. The Enochic view is that humanity isn't just fallen because of a bad choice in a garden. We're victims of a cosmic rebellion. We have been infected by forbidden knowledge taught by divine beings who went rogue.
And that's a radically different worldview.
Totally different from what you get from later theologians like Augustine or Luther.
There's another huge theological hook in Enoch that blew my mind. The Son of Man.
This is, I would argue, the most important point for historians of religion. In one part of 1 Enoch, the Book of the Parables, we meet this figure called the Son of Man. He's pre-existent, meaning he existed before creation, and he sits on a throne of glory to judge the world.
Which is the exact term Jesus uses for himself all through the Gospels.
Constantly. And for a long time, scholars wondered, why does he call himself that? Is he just being humble, saying he's a human? But if you read 1 Enoch, you realize he's tapping into this specific apocalyptic tradition. When Jesus says, you will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds, he is effectively saying, I am that cosmic judge from the Book of Enoch.
It's a claim to divinity his audience would have understood immediately.
Absolutely. They didn't just know this book, they saw it as scripture. The Epistle of Jude in the New Testament, it quotes 1 Enoch 1.9 verbatim.
It directly quotes it.
Directly. Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his holy ones. That's a direct quote. Which creates a very awkward problem for the Western canon, doesn't it?
Yeah. You have a book in the Bible, Jude, quoting a book that is not in the Bible as a prophetic authority.
It suggests the boundaries of Scripture were much more fluid for the apostles than they are for us today. They were reading a broader library.
Okay, let's pivot to the second text, the Book of Jubilees. The outline calls it the Lesser Genesis. Is it just a summary?
I think of it more as the director's cut of Genesis. It covers the same ground from creation to Moses, but it has this very specific commentary track. It claims to be a revelation given to Moses by an angel of the presence.
And this angel seems to be absolutely obsessed with time management.
Obsess is the right word, yeah. Jubilees is militant about the calendar. It insists that the only valid calendar is a solar one of 364 days. It divides all of history into jubilees, these cycles of 49 years.
Why is the calendar such a big deal? I mean, who cares if you count by the moon or the sun?
It matters because of worship. If you're using a lunar calendar, which the main Jewish priesthood did, you are celebrating the feasts on the wrong days. And to the author of Jubilees, that isn't just a scheduling error, it's a sin. It means your liturgy is out of sync with the angels in heaven. You are literally missing your appointment with God.
Jubilees also solves a major plot hole for me. In the Old Testament, demons are kind of vague. Then you open the New Testament and suddenly Jesus is casting them out everywhere. Where did they come from?
Jubilees provides that bridge. It connects right back to the giants from Enoch. It says when the Nephilim, those giant hybrids, were killed in the flood, their physical bodies died, but because they were part angel, their spirits couldn't die.
So demons are the disembodied ghosts of dead giants.
Correct. And Jubilees says that while most were bound up, 1/10 of these spirits were allowed to stay on earth under the command of Mastema, a Satan-like figure to test and mislead humanity.
That is incredibly specific. Do we see New Testament writers picking up on Jubilees like they did with Enoch?
We do, though it's a bit more subtle. Look at Stephen's speech in Acts chapter 7. He gives these details about Moses, like his age being exactly 40 when he killed the Egyptian. That's not in Genesis.
Where is it?
It's in Jubilees. Or Paul in Galatians when he mentions the law came 430 years after the covenant. That's specific timeline. It's a calculation from Jubilees.
It really paints a picture of the intellectual world of the early church. They were just steeped in this stuff.
Precisely. And this leads us to the physical aspect of it all. Because if Ethiopia preserved the text of this ancient tradition, they also claim to preserve the object at its very center.
The Ark of the Covenant. And this is where the story shifts from textual criticism to something, I don't know, palpably mysterious. The claim is that the gold box Moses built is sitting in a chapel in Aksum, Ethiopia, right now.
And according to their tradition, has been for about 3,000 years.
Okay, how do they explain that? I mean, getting a heavy gold box from Solomon's temple all the way to the Ethiopian highlands it's not a small feat.
The story is in their national epic, the Kebra-Nagast, The Glory of the Kings. It starts with the Queen of Sheba visiting Solomon. They have a son, Menelik I, and when Menelik grows up, he goes to Jerusalem to meet his father.
And Solomon wants him to stay, right? To be his heir.
He does, but Menelik wants to go back to his mother's land. So Solomon sends the firstborn sons of all the Israelite nobles back with him. But these young men are not happy about leaving Jerusalem, so secretly they steal the Ark of the Covenant.
Which seems impossible. In the Bible, you touch the ark wrong and you die instantly. It wasn't something you just tossed in the back of a wagon.
And that's exactly the logic Menelik uses. When he finds out, he concludes that if the ark allowed itself to be taken, if they all survived the journey, it must have been God's will.
So God wanted to leave.
Exactly. They saw it as the divine presence voluntarily moving its residents from a corrupt Israel to a faithful Ethiopia. Ethiopia becomes the new Zion.
So fast forward, we've got this Smithsonian source about a reporter who went to investigate. And the security around this thing it's intense.
It's singular. There's one man, the guardian. He's a monk appointed for life. Once he takes the job, he never leaves the chapel grounds. Ever. And he's the only human being on earth allowed to see the ark.
The description of him is just haunting. The reporter, Raphael, he speaks to him through the iron bars of the fence.
Yes, he sees a man who's clearly weary, burdened by this duty. He's holding a yellow wooden cross. And when Raphael asks his name, the monk just says, "I am the guardian of the ark. I have no other name."
That erasure of identity. It's total servitude to an object. But the investigation also took him to Lake Tana first, right? Before the ark got to Aksum.
Right. There's a monastery on an island, Tanakirkos. The monks there claim the ark was hidden on their island for 400 years before it moved. They even showed the reporter these ancient sacrificial bowls they claim came from Solomon's temple.
And they also claim the Holy Family, Jesus and Mary, stayed there.
Yes, during their flight to Egypt. Which, geographically is a huge stretch. But for the Ethiopian believer, this isn't a legend, it's history. The land of Ethiopia is woven directly into the biblical story.
Now, for the skeptic, the question is obviously, is it real? But I think that question kind of misses the point of how this all functions in their religion. It's not just about one box in one room.
You are hitting on the idea of the tablet, and this is crucial. In the Ethiopian church, a building isn't a church just because it has a cross on top. What makes it a consecrated space is the presence of a tablet on the altar.
Which is a replica of the ark.
Specifically, a replica of the tablets of the law that were inside the ark. And every single church in Ethiopia has one. It's like a holographic projection of the original in Aksum.
That's a great analogy. So the ark in Aksum is the central server, and all the local churches are terminals connected to it.
That's a perfect way to put it. The validity of every single mass, every prayer in Ethiopia depends on the reality of that ark in Aksum. That's why the guardian protects it. He isn't just guarding a box. He's guarding the spiritual infrastructure of an entire nation.
You see this during the Timkat festival, right?
Yes, the Feast of Epiphany. They wrap the tablets in these rich cloths and parade them to the water. It's visceral, it's loud, it's joyful. It's not some dusty museum religion. It's alive. They're dancing before the ark, just like David did.
So when we zoom out and we look at all of this, the 81 books, the Watchers, the Ark, what are we actually looking at here?
We're looking at what scholars call Second Temple Judaism frozen in amber. Before Christianity became Romanized and philosophical, and before Judaism became rabbinic and text-focused, there was this vibrant, apocalyptic, angel-heavy, temple-centric faith.
Well, the West moved on and sort of streamlined everything. Ethiopia just kept it.
They preserved the bridge. If you want to understand the world, Jesus stepped into a world where demons were real, where the Son of Man was a cosmic judge, where the calendar was a spiritual battleground. You have to look at Ethiopia.
It really challenges the arrogance of our Western perspective, doesn't it? We call these the lost books.
Right. But for 40 million Ethiopian Christians, they were never lost. They've been reading them every Sunday for 1,600 years. They aren't the ones who changed. We are.
So it leaves us with a provocative thought to chew on. If the apostles, Peter, Paul, Jude, if they considered Enoch and Jubilees to be valuable authoritative texts, are we reading the New Testament with one eye closed by ignoring them?
I think we are. I think we're missing the why behind so much of what the New Testament says and about the Ark. I mean, whether that box in Exum is the original wood from Sinai or a replica from 1,500 years ago, the fact that a man is willing to give up his name, his freedom, and his entire life to stand guard over it, that suggests the mystery is very, very real.
It's a level of devotion that commands respect no matter what's behind the curtain.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we'll leave the lid on the Ark for today. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
A pleasure.